Common errors that we identify in self-managed superannuation funds. We've got five common ones. The first one is lending to members. The second one is use of assets in the fund. The third one is market value of unlisted investments. The fourth one is investment strategies, and the fifth one is assets in the wrong name. By far and away, lending to members is the most common breach that we see in the industry. In all honesty, it's probably the breach that irks the ATO the most. Mainly because it's accessing your funds when you really aren't allowed to. So with these penalties that they have, they're probably more likely to hit the trigger on these types of breaches than any of the other rules. So it is one of the breaches that you probably should look out for. So to put it simply, lending to members is accessing your money when you haven't met a condition of release. So, you know, you've taken money out of your super fund and you haven't reached pension age or preservation age, particularly in this day and age where, you know, you have all of your bank accounts on your app and, you know, you could accidentally, you know, access the wrong bank account, your super fund bank account, and then, you know, a few days later realise what you've done and put the money back in the fund. Well, unfortunately, that's still a breach. You know, your super fund is there for your retirement, and it's there to fund that and not for any other purpose. So if you're obtaining an early benefit out of your fund, you know, that's a big no-no. So one of those breaches is if you have a residential property in your super fund, you can't live in it, or a family member can't live in it, because basically that you're obtaining a benefit out of your assets. So a residential property with a related party tenant is a big no-no. And the other common one is collectibles. So if you've got artwork or jewellery in your super fund, you can't obtain a benefit from those. So you can't have them in your house. You can't be looking at the artwork. It's got to be stored in a separate location or rented out to an arm's length party. So yeah, those two instances need to be watched pretty carefully. Evaluation of unlisted investments is a hot topic with the ATO, has been for the last couple of years. And you know, that's arisen from various court cases that have transpired. But it is an issue that we've identified in the last 18 months or so, and a very common breach that we've been issuing to the ATO. If you cast your mind back to March last year during COVID, the government was scrambling for assistance to people. Well, the early access of super was one of those, and there were some industry funds and retail funds who had trouble during that period of time in making those payouts. And one of the big reasons for that was they needed to value their unlisted investments which they held, which is a lot more difficult to do than a listed product. Like if you've got shares on the ASX or you've got a listed investment company, they're easy to price because they're priced every second of every day, but an unlisted investment isn't priced every minute. So we have the same issue when we do our annual audits. There is a little bit of work that's needed when you're preparing for your end of financial year audit. Just make sure that, you know, if you're entering into an unlisted investment, ask them if they get their investment valued, or how often they get the investment valued. Are they audited? Just so that, you know, we don't hit these hurdles and have issues with you breaching some of these requirements. Investment strategies is also, it's the second hot topic that's coming out from the ATO. Investment strategies effectively need to line up with what each trustee plans to do with their super fund. So asset allocations should really line up with what they've got in their super fund. It kind of makes sense. The government's effectively handed the reins over to the trustees to fund their own retirement. So it is a big responsibility for trustees. And this investment strategy is a critical piece that needs to be used by all trustees. It's a blueprint or a map on how you're going to execute your retirement plan. So the strategy will look at various risks, liquidity risk. If you've just got a property in your super fund and nothing else, how are you do you have enough income or do you have enough cash to pay your liabilities, your expenses and your pension? Diversification risk. Do you have all your money in Lehman Brothers or have you got all of your assets in one particular asset, which raises idiosyncratic risks. So the investment strategy is encouraging the trustee to look at what they're doing and just be aware of the risks that are around them. And the strategy also looks at insurance and that sort of thing. So I encourage all trustees to review their strategies every year and make sure that they're still in line with where they want to go. Assets set up in the wrong name, that is a common bugbear for trustees, because what can happen is you can set up a portfolio of assets in your individual name and not in the fund's name. Well, that's actually, that is a breach. It should be in the fund's name. We will issue a contravention for that and require that to be rectified. If trustees need to rectify that, it's probably likely that the trustees will need to liquidate that portfolio. So they'll need to sell all of those shares in order to set up a new portfolio, set up a new account in the name of the fund. So it can be a costly exercise. So I encourage trustees to ensure that when they're setting up a new bank account or a new portfolio, that it is structured correctly in the name of the super fund. And if you're not sure about how to do all of that, it's worth having a chat with your financial advisor. If you have any questions about some of the breaches that I've identified today, I'd encourage you to discuss this with your financial advisor.